We're going through hand sanitizer like it's going out of style and putting tariffs on all the other morning shows. We'll tell you why right after this. Wow.
There we go.
Yeah, so I don't know where you guys want to go today, and it doesn't matter because we wander wherever we want, but I popped on my little morning news summary, and the first thing was like, Mexico and Canada cave to Trump tariffs.
Yeah, so did I read that Mexico is sending troops out of the border? So they're actually going to patrol their side?
Which they did during the
supposedly?
first Trump administration.
Yeah.
He had them patrolling the border, and then Biden came in, and they're like, oh, see ya, and they left. You know, they didn't have to do it anymore. And now he's like, I'm putting 25% tariffs on your stuff unless you put border troops up there, and everybody freaked out. It's going to hurt Americans. But what happens?
He's so mean.
What happens? Mexico's like, oh, all right, fine.
Well, we have to do something. Okay. We got our hands slapped.
Justin Trudeau, a standard of iron backbone.
Yeah.
Is he gone now, or is he on his way out?
He's on his way out.
He's a boot out.
He's a boot out.
He's got one boot out.
He's a boot to get the boot.
Yeah. Interesting times.
Yeah. No, Canada's, they're going to do more border enforcement. I mean, there's a long list of the things that they committed to.
Yeah, I actually read through that.
It's really amazing just all the changes that are happening, just DEI going away, pronouns are no longer allowed, institutions are changing the way that they do applications and scholarships for, or you're not getting your funding if you don't. So it did not take long for people to become complicit with the new norms.
Yeah, and I mean,
money speaks,
things,
right?
Yeah. Well, I read Missouri State's announcement that they got rid of
I guess I'm referring to that a little bit.
That's exactly what you're referring to. But I mean, there's multiple going on. And I mean, kudos to the Missouri representatives and everybody, because this has been happening for a while. They've been saying we're going to cut your funding. I mean, on a state level to these programs, because I think time and time again. I think in general, it all started with good intentions, I would hope. But you get to a point where you can't try to fix problems based off of what a small amount of people are struggling with. And so I think they probably had good intentions in the beginning, and then they realized maybe this isn't working very well.
Well, and that's what I've been trying to sort out. People follow the money, so I know that's the main motivator, but I just wonder how many people have always known this is nonsense and they've hated it, but they've just had to silently comply and act like they're in favor of it.
Academics,
It's really tricky.
It is tricky.
Because you can't, and there's so many different little segments that you can have this conversation in, but if you just take one of them and say, you can't deny on any factual basis that, we had a a horrible racist problem in this
Absolutely,
country.
we did, and not that long ago.
No, not.
I mean,
that
it wasn't that
at
long
all.
ago.
And that needed to be addressed. But then
Badly,
But to,
yeah.
but to flip it, to let the pendulum swing so far the other direction
when you
is
start
a
turning
problem.
in the legal terms, because when you take what's intended to be a shield and you begin to use it as a sword, you've gone too far.
That's a good
and
point.
that's what we saw happening. Is we put protections in place to stop racism, and then all of a sudden
Good
they're
thing.
being used to advance racist purposes,
Bad thing.
programs on the other other way.
Yeah.
And now instead of leveling the playing field, we're now using it to give advantage.
And here's the thing: that only stirs animosity,
Yeah, it
which reinvents new racism.
Correct.
So it's
Yeah.
that's the problem with it. When you try to tell people they've got to be good, you just make them more evil because it just stirs up anger in everyone.
It's better to just admit that we're totally depraved.
Well, we
you
all struggle
can't-
with this.
You can't punish current people off of past people's bad behavior. That doesn't, because when
Well, I can give you the argument. The argument is that despite the fact that you are not racist and you did nothing wrong, you benefited from the racism of your ancestors and you are continuing to benefit from it today.
yeah, and I mean, there's also
Therefore,
you
we've
know
got to fix it.
Yeah.
yeah, and
Which
that
is nonsense.
that just can't. But historically, we were talking about, why were we talking about slavery over the weekend? Which I actually want to make a point too about that. Let me get back to that. Remind me because it was current
pen in
news
that.
from this morning. We were talking about slavery over the weekend for some reason in our house. Like I cannot remember why. Oh,
I'm sure Evie felt enslaved.
yeah, no, they don't usually complain too much. So
Mom is literally Hitler.
well, Hitler got brought up yesterday too.
Literally.
My
Literally.
quote on Hitler yesterday. Evie goes, "We're learning about World War II and Hitler." I said, "He is one of the worst humans to ever walk the earth." And she goes, "Really?" I'm like, "Oh yeah," because like she hasn't dived too deep into it yet.
But
and I'm
he's
like,
nothing compared to Mao Zedong or Stalin or those guys. He killed much more. They all killed much
well,
more.
they're the worst people to walk the earth category, though.
Yeah.
There's not.
They're all in the
There's
same-
no
they're in the same
contest.
bucket.
Yeah.
Nobody wins that contest. Everybody loses.
Everyone loses.
So they're all horrible. But so we're talking about that. We're talking about slavery, and I think it was Claire that said, "Did a lot of slaves die?" I said, "Honey, there has been slaves throughout history." Oh, we were talking about gladiators.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, there have been slaves throughout history. There are slaves right now. And so here was honestly, this is a little creepy. This was a creepy thing this morning I woke up and read. So Rubio is talking in El Salvador, and El Salvador has agreed to take our not only illegal immigrant prisoners, but it's kind of a sweeping, we'll take your prisoners if you pay us a little bit of money. Well, I don't know how I feel about that, right?
Yeah, American citizens should not be housed.
And that
in
is
foreign
illegal,
prisons.
and that's what this article said. And that's what the article said, that is illegal, and according to whatever United States Constitution, I don't know what makes it illegal, but they're like, and I don't think Rubio was saying that's what we want to do. They just went down there and said, hey, we're talking about these things and all relationship, and the Panama Canal was brought up and all this stuff, right? So there's a lot of information in a long article, and Rubio wasn't asking for that, but but at the same time, they were talking about, prisoners housed currently in the United States, not illegals that just got here that are being deported in their countries aren't accepting their flights, which Colombia is now accepting their flights, is my understanding.
Yeah, that was a fast turnaround too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, well, duh. And, sometimes you got to...
Oh, he's serious.
Yeah, sometimes you have to be firm, right, for things to change. So I don't think that's okay. Like, I don't, that has modern day slavery vibes. Like, we shouldn't send our prisoners.
Because who knows what we're going to go and do to them.
Exactly.
Well, interestingly enough, you say that, and so that's kind of been one of the issues that I've kind of had in the back of my head and looking at is this prison overcrowding problem that we have in the United States. And we don't want to build more prisons. We don't want to build private facilities. But do you know what the answer is? Make people afraid of prison.
Ding, ding.
And the problem is right now you have a large subset of criminals that really aren't afraid
They're
of prison.
not afraid to go to prison.
I mean, it's 3 hots and a cot. It's not that bad. It's pretty nice.
They know it'll take them a couple of years
street
to
cred,
get there.
I mean, the whole bit. I
Well,
mean,
and you're only going to serve a fraction of what that sentence is anyway.
Right.
And so I think that if you start making prisons scary again,
and it sounds
if
like
I can build a hat off
it
of this.
sounds
I was
like
going to
prison.
say, I got the T-shirt in mind right
Make
now.
sound
prison
like-
scary again.
Yeah.
I think suddenly unfortunately, people won't want to go to prison, or it'll actually be the deterrent that it's intended to be.
That was the second. So like when I was reading through this, I'm thinking, I don't feel warm and fuzzy about this, but then I'm thinking, if you're a criminal and you think you might get shipped to a prison in El Salvador with horrible, I mean,
You
they're
might get 3
notorious.
meals.
They're
They won't be hot. They
No,
won't
you
be great.
That was clear too in the article. Like, they're notoriously terrible.
Might get three
prison
meals
systems.
a year.
You might get lights.
Yeah.
Is what I heard in the article. You might have lights in your room. Yeah. So we're talking some real like Batman, Bane stuff here. So.
We can just ship our prisoners to North Korea. Like,
Yeah.
they'll take them.
So I'm like, but if you're afraid to go to prison,
Yeah.
maybe, you would be a little more hesitant to lead a life of crime. I don't know. It's a lot to process.
It's a lot.
There's a lot happening. And there's a lot of reactions to the things that are happening.
And a shorter prison sentence can be more effective if it's less comfortable. I mean, there's other ways.
I don't want to go back.
There's other ways to slice
I've
the
been
cake.
I'm a changed man.
A changed man.
Said Red.
Well, they call it penitentiary for a reason.
Yeah.
The other side of that, if somebody's grown up in not a great home life and environment, prison doesn't feel that bad, right?
Yep.
If you're not used to a warm, comfortable, nurturing environment,
I like home.
it's kind of like, this is what I'm used to. And I mean, that's a real thing, generational. I don't know. It's tough, but there's a lot going on, and it is hard to sort through all of the information.
That's the thing. It's all changing very, very quickly.
Yes.
It's really fascinating to watch. That's what there's kind of there's this line that just it keeps getting moved, and like the line of morality is.
Oh
is,
yeah, I watched the
it's very
Grammys.
fast. Oh yeah. I heard about.
You
I
didn't?
just heard about
I
that.
did. I did. I watched.
I didn't even know.
I didn't even know it was on. I didn't know what it was.
Interesting conversation we just had in my men's Bible study. One of the guys was talking about that, and he said, all these people were talking about Kanye's wife, like she basically showed up naked.
I missed that
Oh,
part.
okay. I thought that's what you were talking about.
No.
So they were like, look at her, look what she did. But only one guy said, Kanye, that's on him.
It is on him.
Right?
Yeah.
Look what he's done to her. Mm-hmm. He's made her a spectacle. That's hard to get your mind around, because we don't think in terms of the family structure, family unit. We don't think about marriage. We're so individualistic.
That's a good
Everybody
point.
was saying, look at her, look at her, look at her. But hey, Kanye, how you running your home?
Yeah.
Your wife
Yeah.
just showed up to the Grammys essentially naked, from what I've heard. I haven't seen the
I
pictures.
didn't
I'm not
see that
going to go
part.
Google
I really
it.
didn't.
But it's the line of morality has just been moved. Now it's like we're moving it back.
We're trying to.
We are, but the reality is
We're moving it sideways.
We're not doing it because people have become moral,
No.
but they follow the money. Like, oh, that's the new rules that I've got to play to make money
Yeah,
or
I
to succeed
agree
in
with
business.
that.
Okay, then I'll play
Yeah.
by those new rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of funny to see how
Human
how-
behavior is interesting.
It is very interesting. It is very. I hadn't watched the Grammys in a really long time, and they were on. So when we didn't have much else to watch, we're like, "Oh, we'll watch them." And then I felt bad after the fact, because I made some comments throughout that were not the nicest comments, and I'm always harping on my kids about not, making mean comments about people. So the next morning I apologized to them. I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. I'm like, there's some things that I said last night that I shouldn't have said about their appearances, because it is a lot. And I said, you have to understand, this is a lot for me to process, because this is so different than things were, 20 years ago. And then you back 20 years back before that. And it's shocking. And it's it's like the Hunger Games, right? When you saw the people in the Hunger Games, and you're like, ha ha ha, nobody'd ever look like that.
Well, you have to.
Yes, they do.
They're not dressing that way. They're not acting that way just to act that way and dress that way. They are attempting to set a new standard for what normal will be.
Yeah.
Oh,
in our
100%,
culture.
100%.
They're trying to put her up there, whatever she looked like, and say, this is what we want women to be like.
Yeah.
They're forcing
This
an
is what
example.
empowers you.
Well, and that's
which is false.
We were watching The Voice last night. Well, I shouldn't say we. Shayna had it on. I was reading, but I was watching it a little bit with her, and this guy comes out, and of course he's very flamboyant, and they share his story, and they share it as, look how he's overcome. He's been victorious. But what was fascinating to me was how the judges were like, we need you. We need more sparkle in here. We need more of what your energy, really what they were celebrating was a tragedy that has been repackaged. Right. And so there is a celebration of a tragic story that's still brewing in this person's life. Wow. And it's, to me, that's hard to watch because we're pretending that all is well because somebody's found some personal freedom that is really just a mirage.
You know what I think is really interesting when you watch media, as hard as they work to push that woke liberal agenda, truth just seeps in, and they can't keep it out. So we've been watching the show Leverage, which is all about like they're thieves and grifters and all that, and they formed this team. It's a really good show. It's from 2012, I think, originally. And then they go after like people that are, bad guys, rich and powerful bad guys that have harmed, the little people. And I mean, I know they're trying to make this like anti-business, kind of thing. But I'm like, no, that's about individual freedom, personal responsibility, and holding people accountable regardless of their station in culture. And, a lot of times it'll be in there, they found corrupt politicians. Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
That's a good thing.
And I mean, they don't even see the truth when they're the ones telling the truth.
It is.
We've been told what is real. We've been told what is moral, and people just aren't examining it with a critical thinking, and therefore it just has become normative, and it's really fascinating to me. Well, because as you're saying, in your lifetime, you're going, girls, this is a lot to process for me.
It is a lot to process.
Because what you're growing up with is so different from what I was taught to be the truth.
Yeah.
And so I think, as a mom, you're making these offhanded comments, and you're not trying to be demeaning in front of your kids. You're trying to help your kids know.
It's just a lot to process.
Well,
something's not right here.
I firmly hit a point where I cannot deny I will be in my mid-50s this month.
It's happening.
I turned 54. I think that's that.
Yeah,
I can't claim early 50s anymore.
Not quite in your pre-60s yet.
Not quite in my pre-60s yet. Mid-50s. So it comes from the old man perspective, but I don't know how to say this and say this right, but I can't say. It's abhorrent. It's obscene for women to wear yoga pants in public without them being covered. It's absolutely obscene.
I disagree with that. I think it depends.
I think because you're younger.
But hold on though. I think it depends on the yoga pant. Let's be honest, and what you're wearing with it.
No, I thought Chris said it depends on the woman.
No.
I'm going to be careful there.
I think you got to be real careful saying stuff like that, Will, because it's like it depends on the yoga. I mean, I'm not wearing something that's that different than yoga pants right now. I'm wearing leggings with a top over it that's covering. There's nothing obscene about the pants I'm wearing. You can wear. I've seen T-shirts worn in an obscene way.
Sure. Yeah.
So
I agree.
I think
I
that's,
like mediums.
So
not large.
I
can
say it's how you wear them, and that's fine. But
and frankly, let's dive a little deeper into that. Frankly, we should develop better as humans where a young teenager, even though we all know what's going through his mind, he can coach himself to be like, maybe I shouldn't stare at that girl's butt because she's wearing yoga pants. Hold on.
It's not the point I made.
Okay, well, I guess I misunderstood it. Why is it obscene then that women wear yoga pants?
Well, it would be obscene if a man wore yoga pants and you could tell all of what he looked like.
Yeah.
So why isn't it the same for women? I mean, you can see literally every little detail when they wear yoga pants.
I think it depends on the yoga pant, but I don't know. But then, let's dive deeper. Why is that a problem?
Why is that a problem? Because it's the same thing as Brittany Mahomes. The fact that you've got, or not Brittany Mahomes, why did I pull that out? Kanye's wife. I like Brittany Mahomes.
Well, that was a really weird.
I was talking about her this morning.
Oh, okay. I was trying to figure out how you went from one to the other.
I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, just because there's a thin piece of translucent cloth covering it doesn't mean you're not naked. I mean, you can still tell what's there.
And I'm not being a jerk. I'm just seriously trying to understand. Okay, so what about a guy wearing a skin tight, like muscly type shirt? Because we see that. You can see his
culture and our society allows.
Why are you targeting me?
Do you feel?
We don't consider topless men to be improperly naked.
Okay, but the counterpoint to that, and I'm not saying I agree with this, is we have decided body parts are a bad thing to look at because even though they're a natural thing.
Well, we've decided there's a standard of modesty.
So
well,
to that, I mean,
somebody decided there was a standard of modesty.
For those of us that have a biblical worldview, Adam and Eve knew when they sinned that they were naked, and
Yeah,
so there,
yeah.
there's a physical element to that as well. So I mean, I think we have to consider how we cover the underwear zones, and so
I don't disagree with the underwear zones.
Modesty is a very difficult conversation
It's
to
a
have
really difficult
because
conversation.
it means something very different from culture to culture.
Yeah.
And so, I think, let's say, France, or you go to Brazil.
You go to Africa.
You go to Africa, they think of modesty very differently. It's not necessarily sexualized. And yet, go to any of those places I just mentioned, and there's still issues with rape and incest and these sort of things. So human sexuality and sin within human sexuality is a real issue. So I long for modesty. I fell in love with my wife because she well, for many reasons, but her value of modesty. So she would never wear a two-piece swimsuit. She had a strict, I'm going to cover my midriff.
Yeah.
And so that, is that a little old fashioned? Some people would say that.
Sure, yeah.
But she was drawing a line saying, look, I want to dress in modesty. Now, does that mean that she covers up her ankles and she wears long sleeves always? No.
Yeah.
So I think there's some play within that. My bigger concern is I don't even think modesty is a part of the conversation anymore for most families. I don't even think anybody's asking the question, what is it to be modest? And that's what bothers me, I think, more than where is the line. Man, we're just not even thinking about it.
I think, and my only point to you, Will, because modesty is a conversation in our household. Well, I think the point is, I think you got to be careful how you word that, because here's the problem with the whole argument. It about 75% more affects women than it does men.
Yeah.
Fair or not. Hold on. Fair or not, though,
I
because women they don't have a different part. It just develops a different way because men have a chest and they have nipples and these things, right?
Oh, my shins.
Oh, my shins. But women's develop in a different way. So women get the brunt of this argument, right?
Yeah.
They do. Okay. So it's just one of those things.
But we have to understand, that's okay. There are certain responsibilities that men have that women don't have.
Absolutely. This is why we're different.
That women have that men don't have, and this is one of them, is to protect their modesty.
I think I'm trying to encourage you to think of it in maybe a different way. I think a better argument than the way you stated it is women are more than their bodies, and we shouldn't allow tight clothing or lack of clothing or, frankly, insane fingernails and dyed hair to be the main source of our, what is the word I'm looking for? Of our identity.
Paul says that. He says, let your, whatever, I can't call it, but
don't let your beauty come with being adorned with
but your
jewelry.
Yeah,
and good spirit.
Your main source of energy, power, identity as a woman should not be purely physical.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Yeah.
Same thing for men.
Yeah. I think what we've seen is, there's 50 shades of feminism, right? So I'm a feminist in the most biblical way, right? But I think that's very different than
anything that's happened in the past.
The last 100 years.
I think too, you got to kind of understand the woman's perspective on this. Is it's a little hard for a woman to sit here and be told by guys, you need to wear this way, because you aren't experiencing the same thing we are. Sure. And you also can't get as physically attacked as easily as a woman can be, right?
Right.
So I think you got to kind of think of it a little bit deeper than just the surface level.
I think those are
two
separate points that have been improperly conjoined. The women get attacked and the way women dress. I mean, those are separate issues. Those are completely separate. Anybody that says that women are being victimized because of the way they're dressed is out of line, and they should never say that. And that was never my point. Men that attack women are horrible, and they should go to prison for life.
Well, yeah, they're crazy.
They're crazy. So, but those are not arguments that belong together. Those are separate discussions. Women should dress modestly because of all the reasons that you and Chris have talked about this morning. Men shouldn't attack women because it's the wrong.
Okay, well, let's try to think of this. Let's go even deeper here. So what's something that men have to deal with that's similar to this? Obviously not the same thing, but a similar type of struggle they have of judgment, right? Because at the end of the day, the woman's dress is a judgment thing, a judgment on her. So what is something what's the counterpoint that men have to deal with on that? I'm just curious. I don't know.
So I mean, we live in a new era, right? Like I grew up in the church ministry world. When my first job, I wore a suit and tie every Sunday. Now I'll wear jeans and a t-shirt to preach in.
And that's changed in the last 20 years.
So, but there's some that would say that's inappropriate still. I can think of when I first moved back to the area and was a youth pastor. My hair was, I've always enjoyed doing different things with my hair. It's kind of like my artistic expression. Yeah. And so this person told me after they met me, they're like, he's either gay or he's a stylist, or he's a gay stylist. And so it was.
I just love you're sitting in front of the Trump photo, by the way.
Right.
I know. Trump's hair, like,
right? With very similar hair. But
so
anyway, so it's stuff like that where because of the way culture has shifted, if my hair's a little bit out of the norm, he's gay.
Yeah, but that affects women too. I'm trying to get
the way he dresses.
Yeah, I'm trying to dig into something that like a specific to men battle. You know what I mean? Because that's not specific to men, but
I don't know.
It is a little bit.
It's different for sure.
But and I think Will, and again, we can disagree on the wording on things and still be friends. It's no big deal. But I think the whole thing is, I think from my perspective on it, you have to understand how maybe the women's generations, me and the generations of women my age and younger, would hear a comment like that and go real far. That guy's just a jerk type thing, right? And because it's surface level, it sounds very judgy and targeted towards women.
Sure.
Right?
I would be quick to point out that men have encouraged that. I mean, men are ultimately the problem underneath that. I mean, modern feminism is all about weak men turning women into sexual objects is the point of modern feminism.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, men started it for that purpose, so that women would no longer be dependent on men financially, would no longer be responsible to them, and you put all the burden on them for the results of sexual activity. That's what feminism was about, was to turn women into sex objects, and weak men started it. And this is just another result of it.
Yeah, and I mean, you think like the majority of men who are consuming certain materials that are put out to the masses, right? So, I mean, yeah, it's I don't know. It's a complicated problem. And I just think surface level, people judge you based off of the way you look. Yep. They just do. It happens.
I would say, if I don't know that I can capture this as well as I would like to, but I would say that the point where men bear that type of a responsibility, in large part, they've gotten a pass for all of that. Because, I mean, I think men, just like women should be modest in their dress and all those things, men have a responsibility to build a life, build a home, have a career, and have a family. And I think that you can easily judge men that don't do that. But I think that we've so much gotten the past that nobody feels the pressure.
I was going to say, nobody really seems to be judging.
I know, and I think that's sad. Because we're called to do things.
Shane and I have raised our daughter to be modest because we want her to know that her value comes from her identity being created first by God, but then recreated in Christ Jesus for good works, which he prepared in advance for her to do. So she has a purpose in life that does not go in line with all the other cultural norms. So modesty is a part of that expression, to say you don't need to work to try to get other people's attention by how you dress. So I want her to enjoy, style. I mean, like I said, I've done different things with my hair throughout the years. There's nothing evil or wrong. Hair is neutral, right? But if I'm doing something to try to get it,
might disagree.
If I'm right. That was descriptive, not prescriptive. I know you're messing, but so it's one thing if I'm doing something to try to get attention, versus I'm just trying to enjoy something. This is something I like.
It's part of your personality that you like. Yeah.
Right. This is what I do. I'm not doing it to cry out, look at me, look at me.
Yeah.
And I've tried to instill that in her. you do you, as long as that's a sanctified phrase, right? Where
Yeah.
you do something that, as long as it's God honoring and something you enjoy and it's not over the line. And that's what's difficult, I think, for culture to know is in what is over the line. And as I mentioned, American culture is going to probably set that line differently than African culture or Brazilian culture or whatever. So that's what makes it so complicated. For me, though, it's about identity. So, right now, even in the church world, we're seeing this really bizarre shift, very swinging wildly the other way, where the answer to modern feminism is to almost go back to oppressive measures, women covering their head to go to church, women believing it's a sin to work outside of the home, women not wearing makeup. Let's go back. So it's almost like let's reinvent it and let's ignore what God's word says altogether, and let's create these new norms of Christianity and take modesty to what I believe is an unbiblical and ungodly level to try to course correct modern feminism.
So
that's equally dangerous.
Classic situation of people's overreaction to things and these swings that we're seeing far, and my whole deal after watching the Grammys is I get a little uptight about the altering of our natural state. Does that make sense? We are, God gave us, God designed us. We're born with these features. We're born with our bodies. It's a natural world. And when you really start altering it, let me say this better. When you're spending a whole lot of time, money,
energy on lip filler and all these other things,
on altering what you naturally have been given by God, that's a problem. Yeah. That's a little concerning.
That's why I don't work out.
That makes sense.
Whatever God's given me, that's what I.
That makes sense, Will.
That
adds it. That's what I'm talking about.
Out.
But it's the same thing if you're spending no time nurturing your physical self. Mm-hmm. You're just doing a lot of unhealthy behavior that hurts you physically and mentally, because it goes hand in hand. That's a problem. That's not you glorifying the body that you were given by God. And so it's one of those things that
it's another tricky line. And I was just telling the guys on my Bible study this morning, I work out 6 days a week because this is the temple of the living God, and I only have one body, and it is a stewardship principle for me to take care of my body.
I was on the treadmill Saturday.
Yeah, I'm not digging
at
you.
Will.
However, to show you how tricky the line can be, there have been times where it became an obsession. Yeah. Where I would ruin a family vacation. I would ruin a day out with a family because I have to eat. You don't understand. I have to get my macros. I have to eat every 3.5 hours.
That's probably too far.
That's too far.
Yeah.
And then there were other times where I was obsessed with how I looked rather than the purpose of working out. It was about, So you can take a good thing and make it an evil thing very quickly. And I've come in and out of all of those traps. So working out is really a spiritual passion of mine. If I'm going to be disciplined with reading the Bible and my schedule and my finances, I'm also going to be disciplined with my body. And I try to be disciplined in all the areas.
And that's a very individual thing to you.
Yes.
Because God has given me a body. I cannot run. It kills my back. There's nothing I can do.
But you can go for a walk in the evening.
And I do that. And
so it's not about you do it the way I do it.
So it's a very individual thing.
Yes.
And that's why it's so hard to make very sweeping statements, because it is very individual. But what I saw on the Grammys, there were some people that looked happy and healthy while they were doing the things that they were doing. As crazy as that sounds, with as crazy as much, and I'm not saying that you should be that way too, but there's always going to be characters in society that are very unique individuals, and you can't cater to the masses with them because they're a very unique person. But there were a lot of those people, and frankly, Beyonce was one of them, who did not look like a comfortable human.
Don't get me started.
And I know, and I mean,
it's hard. It's sad, isn't it?
It is sad because that woman is almost. They collectively have like $3 billion. Her and Jay-Z. Mm-hmm. And I mean, they might storm in the door here and assassinate me. I don't know. But seriously, the woman
fight
did
if
not
we do
look.
that.
I think you're right.
She
We'll go
did
down-
not
we'll go down
look.
shooting.
That'd be great. No, never, don't say that. She did not look happy and healthy. That woman did not.
Yeah.
And
Well-
maybe I didn't see the whole picture, but my God, the woman has literally $800 million to her name.
But again,
and that
we're-
tells you everything you need to know about that.
We're all like this.
Yeah.
Like being in shape can produce happiness and joy if it's done in a healthy way, or it can make me a miserable person because I'm beholden to it. And that is true with any discipline, any way of doing life, whether you're pursuing modesty or health or wealth management. It can be a healthy discipline, or it can be
If the good thing
an
becomes your
unhealthy-
God, then
Yeah.
it's become a bad thing.
Yeah.
And we're
exactly.
all susceptible to that. We're all just a moment away from a good thing becoming a bad thing,
Yeah.
a little g God thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So yeah, it's
I mean, there's a lot of
Interesting.
there's a lot of deep conversations here, and a lot.
well.
And we should talk about
let's-
Super Bowl though.
Well, I was
Yeah,
gonna
I
say
did
let's
want-
switch gears here.
We have
Can
like 3 minutes.
Can we talk about how beautiful the little spring preview?
It was amazing.
yesterday?
I did a lot of
I had my
gardening.
day off. It was
Fall
75
summer.
degrees.
Fall spring.
Fall spring.
Fall spring.
Yeah, but I'll take it.
Yeah, sure.
'Cause
It was great.
It'll snow a week
It's
from
on
today.
the calendar.
Yeah.
It's part
Yeah.
of the calendar. We enjoy it.
We know it.
Oh, yeah.
We're not making fun of it.
That's why we
It is
love.
what it is.
That's why we
It's
love
well
the All-Star.
defined in that
I
meme
think
that
it
has
was
like
actually,
10
I was figuring
seasons.
this out the other day. I think it's almost exactly 1 year from, I think it was February 1st, that I broke my shoulder last year.
Oh yeah.
Fell on the ice.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
I broke my
Yes.
shoulder. But yeah, I do want to talk about the Super
I'm excited.
Bowl.
Yes.
Nice.
Super Bowl. It's going to be this Saturday, February 7th, right here, 203 Jamestown. We're having it in the law firm. We got a classroom, community room over there. We've got, I think, probably 11 or 12 different soups.
Entries, all right, nice.
Entries are here. Me, Lauren, Sue Evans from Time to Low.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
We've
I had
got-
no idea Sue was a competitor
We have
of mine.
culinary
you're scared
students
now.
traveling from Kansas to participate
Dun,
in this
dun,
event.
dun.
This is a big deal.
It is a big deal. Every dime, everything's going to newborns in need to help out those babies that are born in poverty with some of the basic necessities that they and their moms are going to need. That's where all the money goes to. You get to try all these amazing soups from some really good cooks from all over the place. But you got to come and prepared to share your opinion and vote, and that means share your dollars. So everybody's going to little sample cups, taste the soup, and if you like it, put
vote by-
$1
vote
or
by
50
money.
cents or $100 in the jar next to that soup, and then that's your vote. And then when the whole thing's over about noon, we'll count the money, we'll announce a winner, we'll award a plaque, and we'll give everything to newborns in need. And it's going to be
exciting.
a lot of fun. Try a lot of great soup. We're looking forward to it. Please come out.
Love it.
Yeah.
And I might even let you give a peek in the studio here if you kind of want to see what the studio at Planet
It
417
has
looks
heat.
like.
Donald Trump approves. He's like,
Yeah,
I will
as he-
stare at you.
You can take a peek at
feel-
what the studio
I
looks
need to
like.
be out of his way.
I know, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird.
Well, I keep
He's
thinking,
watching.
Alex put that up. Alex's show starts here in half an hour
Trying to-
on Planet 417. He put that up, and I think that's great. But we could take it down and put our my tacos.
I kind of miss the
back up.
tacos.
having
I
tacos.
kind of feel like I have someone
It
watching
doesn't
me.
hurt to change the set for the
I just-
different shows.
I just really
I want
love
the
his
tacos back. I
squinted
mean,
eyes just
nothing
looking
against
over me.
nothing against the picture of the president,
The
but
DJT.
it does kind of feel like there's a fourth person in the room in kind of a creepy way. He's like, I'm watching
the
you.
president is looking over you.
There's
I feel safe and secure.
Do ya?
I do.
He's
I
got
do.
your back.
Not creepy at all.
And
just his eyes are peeking over
if you
your
don't like
head.
it, we're going to put tariffs on.
It's probably the least safe place I could be. Is
Yeah.
that a red dot on my
Trump's
chest?
going to sign an
tariff.
executive order to tariff Lauren.
gonna
He's like,
tariff.
she doesn't like my
We're
picture.
going to put the tariffs.
All realtors must know.
All right. We're going to land a plane. We got to get out of here so Alex can get in, and we'll be back next Tuesday morning with more Morning Waffle.